So another thing you can do when you're making a zipper pouch is instead of using those squares all the way down, you can just use one big piece of fabric. So this is my outer fabric with the fleece attached, and this is my lining fabric I'm going to use. So now I'm going to put them together and quilt them. Alright, before we keep going, let's talk about this fusible fleece. This is fusible fleece. It's pretty thin, but it's a little bit thick, and so gives structure to the bag, helps the bag like hold its shape once it's finished. Let's talk about some other things you could use for if you don't have this fusible fleece. First thing is just regular interfacing. If you have regular interfacing, you can just use this. I would interface both the exterior and the interior, and you might even want 2 layers on it if you feel like it's too thin. But if you do 1 layer and then another layer, it'll make it a little sturdier. If you have an old sweater with holes in it that you're not going to wear anymore, you might be able to use that. There's batting that you put in quilts. You could use that. It's not fusible, but if you sew it in like we do on this pattern, then it'll be fine to use. There's an old towel. Old towel might be a little bit thick and bulky, especially when you sew in the ends, but I think it'd probably work, especially if it's a thin old towel. Then there's this foam stuff. It looks thick, but it's very squishable and easy to poke a needle through. This one is called So Fab Foam. So if you can find this would also be great. Also, there's flannel. A lot of baby blankets are made out of flannel, or pajamas. You could use 1 or 2 layers of flannel instead of the fusible fleece also. Alright, so here's another bag. I quilted it differently. I did kind of diagonal lines, changing them just whenever I wanted to. So that's what I did. By the way, the closer your lines are together, the stiffer your fabric will end up being. So if you want it to be soft and move a lot, then don't quilt so close together. But if you want it a little bit stiffer, you just put the lines closer. And if you want it stiffer than this, you could run through another time all these, in between all these lines here, and that would be even stiffer. But I think this one's good, so I'm going to go with this. I have marked the halfway point, so I'm ready to sew the ends together. And I just wanted to show you a different way to do the handles. On the other one, we did a handle like this. On this one, you can fold it's the same size piece. You just fold it differently, and then you're going to put it in right there. So I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, so I have my bag. Center top is over center bottom, lined up. I'm going to take one of my handles, fold it in half, and I'm going to stick it in here, right there, and pin that in place. And then same for the other side. Okay, now I'll just sew up the ends and then I'll box the corners. All right, here's my bag. I sewed these in. This one looks nice, but this one is crooked. So I'm going to take out my stitches and try to sew it in a little straighter. Okay, so I straightened out that thing. All right, so another thing you can do that's to try something a little different is you can cut out a bigger square. Before we did 1.5 inch square. This time I'm going to try a 2-inch square. It'll make the bag taller, okay? But you can try cutting out different size squares. They all have to be equal.
Well, then get out of here!
But that'll give it a little bit different shape. Okay, so I've cut the squares out. And on this edge, you can zigzag it to finish it. But I'm going to show you a different way. It's called a bias bound. All right, so I have a 1 3/4 inch strip of lining fabric. I'm going to first sew it to the bottom. We're going to do right sides together.
But in that they said
In the middle is kind of thick because we have that handle and we have the zipper. So take it slow. All right, and I'm gonna trim the same as with this edge. And then we're gonna pull it around. The way we're gonna do that is we're gonna fold it up like that. And then we fold this down halfway and then fold it around. And we want to cover up this stitching. We want to cover up that stitching there. And this is a good place to use clips. So you'll notice that these edges are raw. They're not finished. But they're going to get closed up when we do this seam on the side. So we don't need to worry about that right now. We'll just do this. There you go. Now we'll do these sides. All right, 1/4 inch seam allowance on both sides.
No, I haven't too much. I am motorcyclist. You know, this base is really weak.
And there, broke my needle. Let's get a bigger one.
Here. Now it's not the Queen's world. This is horse. I am horsey. I demand that everyone connect animals. Gardeners, I will throw you in jail for being mean to animals. I didn't be mean. These houses will now house the animals. Such as animals, you now live in houses. Yay! Animals get their own houses now. Only Zookeeper was nice to us. He is the only human who will get a house. Yay! So never the Queen. The Queen will die. The Queen will live in the zoo where all the animals live. I mean, where they do. The new local hero. Blob alien. Elmo alien eater. Super Elmo alien eater. He eat it, the alien. He ate it. Dunk. Super Elmo eater.
I would love to go to the shops now. You may. Thank you.
Then slime turns into Mr. Strong.
I'm the one. Oh,
All right, here's the other end.